What is the difference between these three sets of twins? There is no physical difference between these pictures. The only difference is that one child has autism and one does not. These two pictures of the two brains compares one brain with autism and one without. You're able to tell that the brain with autism did not develop the same part that someone without autism did. How is autism viewed in different cultures?
Autism is a developmental medical problem, and it means that a child might have trouble with speaking, and it might have trouble with playing with other kids, and might have some behaviors that seem unusual or repetitive.
Signs and symptoms of autism.
He was very, very hyper, very short attention spans. I have to call his name multiple times for him to respond to me.
Watching the same videos over and over, and he likes the alphabet a lot, and he's obsessed with lining them up perfectly, backwards, forward, diagonal.
Running around, knocking heads, making weird noises.
Once a child reaches 2 or 3 years old of age and are not sharing toys or are not developing certain skills that kids at this age should be, then first bring them to a pediatrician or family doctor to see if they show any symptoms, and then the doctor will send you to a specialist to diagnose them.
The diagnosis of autism.
There's no blood test for autism. Really, the only way you can tell if someone has autism is from looking at their behavior.
There's no pill that you can take to help with autism. It's really individual teaching with a therapist.
Specialists will help to understand the child and help them to try and eventually live an average life. They will play games and use sensory rooms to help the kids.
Sensory rooms for autistic kids. They use these rooms to help kids keep calm throughout the day. They can build obstacle courses and use different types of machines to challenge the kids.
The autism spectrum.
There's a huge spectrum from the very, very smart types that you see on like the Big Bang Theory down to kids who need assistance with every aspect of daily life.
The autism spectrum disorder is a spectrum that is used to diagnose somebody with a certain type of autism.
Asperger's is when a kid with autism is socially off. Kids with Asperger's can still be in honors classes and can be incredibly smart, so it's hard to identify a kid with Asperger's.
HFA stands for high functioning autism, which is an anxiety disorder. PDD-NOS stands for pervasive developmental disorders, which this is the most severe on the spectrum. People in this category might need help with everyday needs, like going to the bathroom or getting ready for the day. This is what 40 seconds of being at home can sound like to an autistic kid. This video can show how hard it is for an autistic kid to live, because they pick up every noise that is around them, which can make them start to have tantrums and mental breakdowns.
How is autism viewed in Asian cultures?
In the Asian culture, the word autism is translated as chape, which stands for being closed in on oneself. This means that autistic kids are involved in their own world and are unaware of what is happening around them and in the real world.
Being autistic in China isn't just a personal struggle. The sufferers and their families are too often shunned by a country that simply doesn't understand.
In China, it's really not heard of. It's very rare.
Since autism is not heard of in Asian cultures, it makes it even harder for people to understand what it really is and how it's caused.
I think Asians in general, that I know of, don't really believe in autism.
Why do parents think they have an autistic child in Asian culture?
Kind of sad because I'm like, well, I did everything right. I had a good pregnancy. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink.
The Asian culture thinks they have a child with autism because it is a punishment of a family's previous sins.
Especially the Asian cultures view having a kid with a disability as almost a punishment, or it's like something that you have to work through. So they think like, this is my burden. This is what I have to deal with. I don't need help. I don't need assistance. And it really makes their life 100 times more difficult, and it makes their kids' life more difficult as well because they're not connecting them with that outside world.
It is very hard for families to ask for help.
Typically it's challenging because typically the mom is really the sole person responsible for whoever the kid is. And they're sometimes embarrassed to reach out to other people.
Families with an autistic child feel since they have a disabled child, they are a disabled family.
Country, if there's a problem with a child, they blame the parent. Also, other people don't want to be associated with your family anymore. It can be very hard.
The government in China.
Man Shi has brought his daughter here to a special centre for autistic children on the far outskirts of Beijing. This is rare in China. Parents and teachers complain of a lack of such facilities. Yet a recent survey by the Shenzhen Autism Society in southern China reveals an alarming lack of professional or governance.
Since China has a lack of government, families are left alone to try and help their child, which makes it more difficult on the family.
In developing countries, we have little knowledge and few facilities. Parents don't want anyone to know their child has the illness. This is going to take time to change.
If Asian culture countries had more money and more help from people in their country, then they would be better off understanding what autism is and how to deal with it.
How is autism viewed in American culture?
Autism in English is a neurodevelopmental disorder, which means these disorders are impairments of the growth and development of the brain or central nervous system. Our definition of autism is very different to that of the Asian culture.
The typical population is so accepting of people who are different from them, like people who have disabilities.
Neurodiversity is that differences are to be recognized and respected as any other human variation.
Promoting neurodiversity. So you wouldn't want to call somebody as having low functioning autism because that would be insulting.
There are many opportunities in the United States for autism.
There's just a lot of opportunities in an area like this. And part of it is because there's a lot of money in an area like this. And the other part is people who have the means will move to an area like this if they have a kid with a disability because they know that they'll be supported and taken care of. So we're in a pretty lucky environment.
American culture has the money and resources to be able to tell people what autism is and how to treat them. People in American culture do not see autism as a punishment, but as they are different but not less than an average human being.
Over the course of our journey, we have found that different cultures have different meanings and ways they treat people with autism.
The Asian culture sees autism as a punishment and that there is very little help for people who have autism in these areas.
The American culture sees autism as a disability but does not make people with autism any less than an average human. Autistic people just need more help with things, and the American culture is able to help kids with our advanced technology and money.
In both cultures, you want to be careful about what you say about autism because it can be harmful or offensive to some people.
Of autism is that autism means retardation.
You never want to call or make an assumption of someone by using the word retard, because it is a cruel word that can offend somebody.
One thing that anyone can do is say hello or give a friendly smile. It can make anybody's day.
There's a saying about autism is if you know a person with autism, you know one person with autism, because everyone's so different.